And we're live. So I was up at a little rock and roll show last night, uh, and I heard a couple people talking about the secret to making it as a band, and that wasn't necessarily what they were talking about because it actually the quote that the person said came from a comedian, and it was something like, to make it in the industry, you have to eat shit for 9 years, and then your 10th year you make it. And I thought that was kind of interesting, right? You kind of just have to tough it out. And obviously that's, it's not a scientific, it's not down to a science, but
Right.
I just thought that was a little interesting. Maybe something you might have some thoughts on.
Yeah, I think it gets a bit. Well, there's a few angles. So the first one would almost be like Malcolm Gladwell style, Outliers. Have you ever read that book?
No, but
He kind of has that 10,000 hour thing.
Right.
It's kind of a meme. It kind of goes around and people parrot it.
You do something for 10,000 hours, you'll be successful.
And you become
or
a
whatever.
master at it.
Master,
They
right.
say master because success is, part luck. So becoming a master is not really part luck.
Right.
So
There's probably plenty of people that are masters at their craft that we've never heard of and never will.
anonymous famous or anonymously rich and stuff like that, and it kind of sounds like that, even though the 10,000 hour thing, I think a lot of the lazy formulation is kind of based on the 3 hours a day, and it kind of
Right.
ends up taking 10 years.
Okay, so that would be the
So
9
it-
years of shit, 1 year
Yeah.
of success or mastery.
Yeah, although I've heard it reverse engineered to some people that are masterful or successful or whatever, if you want to use them as synonyms. I've heard their stories reverse engineered and why they did it in 3,
Sure.
because of that obsessive 9 to 12 hour a day kind of thing.
Just going hard every day.
Going a bit harder as far as the ethic goes. And I've read a bunch of things too, not to get into a paralysis by analysis kind of thing, where, studying habits and things like that work pretty good intensely for 45 minutes, 12-minute break, kind of
Right.
45 minutes back at it. That's how Ivy League schools teach their kids to study and things like that. And I think Robert Greene has a book called Mastery, about where he has across several different fields masters. But to me, I never thought that applied to the entertainment industry.
Well,
Ever.
Does it seem to be because the entertainment industry is a bit more luck based, or like right place at the right time?
It seems like a lot of luck. The best man doesn't always win, I guess.
Right.
It's
not about what you know, it's about who you know almost.
People say that, but I kind of don't like that because it sounds like some excuse,
Sure.
But for example, in business, the best man usually does win. As far as the first man doesn't always win, it's usually actually the second. It's usually someone innovates something, and then a company comes behind them, sees what they did, can
Makes it better.
basically piece it together as far as they have it, and then they make a few tweaks, and they kind of become the heroes of it.
That's kind of what Apple does.
In a way,
Right.
they kind of did, not to discount it, because again, that's another angle of the eat shit for 10 years idea. We only hear about people who are done eating shit.
Right. What about the people that ate shit for 10 years and then ate shit for another 10?
Right. Right. Like, I always like to use Bob Seger because he's from Michigan and I like him.
Did you go? Are you going to go to his last show tomorrow
I
or
went to
tonight?
his last show 10 times. So
He's doing a week's worth of shows this summer.
yeah, he did that. I think
Last
last
summer.
year and the year before. So, we'll know it's his last show when he dies.
Right.
But he's a good example of someone that, he didn't break at 19 or 20 or whatever. But it's not really a good example because he's in the entertainment industry. Anyway, in business, even things that are ahead of the curve, and I think we talked about this last time, if they're too far ahead, they lose people, and if they're too far behind, they lose people. Things about innovation and things like that. Music doesn't really take on those, doesn't really concern itself with those type of ideas as far as things like convenience, ease of use, quality of life stuff.
That's all stuff
that's
like third party, right? It's Spotify is doing the ease of access.
It doesn't have anything to do with accessibility and things like that. The music itself it's strange. Entertainment is kind of, I think that's why it's so all over the place as far as compensation goes, because people always bitch about NBA players making the $100 million, but there's a quarter of the earth watching them play.
Right. And there's a fraction of a percentage of people that can play at the level that they play.
Right. Aside from who can do it, even if half the world could play NBA level basketball, if everyone decided to watch LeBron, then LeBron's going to get the money. It's not a big scam. I really don't like the idea about the victim idea, I guess. It's just a victim idea about everyone always has the idea that there's always an oppressor victim kind of dichotomy with that. But the eat shit thing always struck me as strange because, especially, it's funny that a comedian said that because comedy's so young, right? How old is comedy really?
Right. I guess how do you trace it back?
How many people ate shit for 10 years? 5?
Well, could it, is this crazy? Couldn't you trace it back to like jesters as like being the first comedians, or is that just totally saying Beethoven's a rock star?
I don't really know.
I guess I don't know when comedy started. The earliest comedians I can think of are in like the 70s.
It's hard to break down what you're talking about, because what are you talking about? Being financially independent or being comfortable or being whatever? You eat shit.
Everybody's level of success is different.
Right. And what is it exactly that you make it means?
Right.
That's another squirrely term in the entertainment industry. Is it getting an agent? Because if not, you don't have to wait 9 years to get an agent. You can go, there's a bunch of pseudo agents representing themselves on LinkedIn anywhere. You can go contact them, and is it getting published in a publication? You can go find 100 pseudo journalists, 100 hipsters that'll write an article about you and freelance to something. So it's kind of like, gets you thinking, and then you kind of start thinking, it's almost an academic model, I guess, but it's not real. That was the big thing with me, and I talked about this before, I think, to Jeff, when we were talking, when I said, you can study music and do this stuff for as long as a brain surgeon, say 12 years.
Right.
When you're done with your 12, you don't get a check.
Right.
You don't get $350 grand a year.
You don't just go through school and they're like, all right, you're good to go.
School's the easy bet.
Right.
That is a bet that you can show up, and they even have a grading system where there's only 4 or 5 grades.
Right.
And they say if you get it, you make it through.
Well, and it's not even, you don't even have to do that well. C's get degrees is the saying. You know what I mean? My degree, if one person's degree when they graduated and they got 100% in every class is just as valuable as someone's degree where they did just barely enough to get by. Right.
And I think there's a lot of, wiggle room. There's a lot of wiggle room at the top as far as, that 99th percentile kind of thing. But as far as getting through it, when you're through it, most likely can get a career, I
Right.
guess. That's why I don't like to include the entertainment industry in the eat shit for the 10,000 hour, whatever. You know, you might be a master, you might be really good at what you're doing, but it doesn't promise you anything. It's really hard because it's always, what is it? I forget the cognitive bias that it is, but it's all retroactive kind of post hoc stuff.
Right.
Where no one is running around talking about the guy who failed because we don't know him, because he's not popular.
You would never know him.
We would never hear his name. So it's easy for everyone to, even when someone comes up and someone emerges on the scene and everyone's like, he came out of nowhere.
So
So
you're not
no,
seeing the
he-
6-7 years or so worth of work that you just
14,
didn't see.
15 sometimes, right? It's weird in that sense. So just coming at the thought from a few certain angles, spending that type of time and dedication on something doesn't really mean anything. You
Right.
know? And then you talk about multifaceted things. So if you're a knee surgeon or whatever it might be, you know the knee.
Right.
If you're a musician, it almost seems in some scenarios like that could be an afterthought.
Yeah,
Say
'cause
I'm a social media maverick. I only have to be an okay musician.
Right. You have to learn the industry in addition to learning the craft. Like I can't think of any job where you have to learn how to navigate the industry outside of the entertainment industry, right? Like you go to school to be a knee surgeon. Part of that, you have to go be a knee surgeon. Like you can't get your degree without being one. But you can
Right.
be a musician without knowing anything about how the entertainment industry works.
Which kind of only confuses everything, right?
Right.
Because when anyone can raise their hand and be like, yeah, me, I'm that too. It's like, not two, you're that.
Right.
But not what I am. That's how I always felt growing up, like, not to where I thought I was any good, but when I would see other people, I would think, you aren't like me, man. Not saying anything about you, just saying something about me. It's not the same thing.
Right.
What you're doing is nothing like what I'm doing. And yeah, I don't think anyone picks that idea apart like that, to where you realize, aside from, because these things do exist in other fields, if I am a knee surgeon, then I still do social media. I still do open my own practice. I still do conduct business and things like that. But with music, you can show up and do 12-hour days for 20 years and never get one dime.
Right.
As far as anyone concerned, in that idea, I think it just gets lost on people. I don't think people understand that there really is you don't punch a clock and there's no compensation kind of stuff out there. So it's almost like, if you're breaking it down, logically, you might want to put your efforts in other types of things. You might want to find out what is it, because the tendrils, the octopi kind of arms are all getting regular job pay.
Right.
So if you're a band, you might not be getting shit, but okay, if your booking agent does something, he does. If your management does something, they do. Your label is a business.
Right.
If the show that hosts you, is a business, all these things that are connected to you, they are less obtuse, I guess. They're a little bit more linear, I guess. They're a little, more of a traditional type of hustle.
It's kind of like what we were saying last time about how you won't find any musician that's not doing it in some way for the money, because you wouldn't know about them if they weren't doing it for the money, unless it's like a friend of yours or something.
Right. I always find that a real strange thing too. If you ever tell someone about your project, I almost feel like you're worse than the person just blindly selling your project because you just want attention for it.
Right.
You don't even want money. So it's like I'm completely okay with creating music around the clock all day, but if someone decides that there's value to it, then there's value to it. It's just like anything else. We agree that these pieces of paper have value. It's
Right.
called money. If we agree that we all agree and we all agree that it's useful, then it is.
So if, you making the music and someone agrees that, yeah, it's valuable, there's no reason it's not.
It seems pretty logical, right? And it's really strange because I was talking to this kind of, again, when we were talking to Jeff, and I was trying to explain that there's a real difference in the arts, because when you go to work, when you leave, something exists that wasn't there when you went.
Sure.
It's not like that in other things. So when you do tasks, and when you even when you think of something creative like manufacturing, you're not putting pieces of something together and making the sum of its parts is not creation. That's manufacturing,
Right.
or that's assembly, or that's these types of things. Creation is a heavy ass word.
It'd be like comparing the person that prints the CD and puts it in the disc or the case to the person that's making the content of the CD.
Right. It's a heavy ass word. It's really hard to get around. So the eat shit for 9 years is a tough idea for me, because I'm not sure that it does apply in entertainment, even like Bill Cosby and stuff. I don't know. I think it's more than that. I think you have to have a lot of things going on for you. I do think this day and age is easier than ever.
Just because of like social media.
Accessibility, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a fool's errand to even talk about, because everyone talks about it.
Right.
Everyone parrots these
It's
stupid
obvious.
ideas, and it's so obvious, but just a thought experiment. When I was a kid, not even a young kid, teenage years, whatever, I had never knew anyone who had their voice recorded in music.
Right.
Personally. Never met or knew anyone that could show me something. Say, listen, this is me. You know what I mean? That was crazy. To even get to a studio, and that's like money and all these other things, but none of that really mattered. What I was thinking the whole time was, now it's almost the opposite. It's easier, it's harder to not be in some form of media.
Right.
Than it is. It's harder to avoid it.
Especially if you consider social media a form of media, which I think it's crazy not to.
It seems telling.
It's
the
the name
does.
social media.
Yeah. So I don't really care to get into that can of worms, but the eating shit for 9 years before you make it, it's rough when it comes to the entertainment industry, and I don't think it applies. Being a master, and it does apply as far as being very good at what you're doing, I imagine. I'm not sure that if you show up for 10 years you're good.
Right.
There's a whole separate thing called deliberate practice and things like that are actually a tribute to skill. We all know this from, say, running. We can all pretty much run the same speed throughout the years.
Right.
As far as an adult running, but if you work on running faster, you can. It doesn't matter who you are. If you work on, say, your dribbling skills, you can get better. If you work on your shooting and stuff, if you never break it down, you just go to the range and stand there taking pop shots, you will be that good your whole life. So I don't think it's just showing up.
It's like my coaches used to always say, like, you play how you practice.
Right.
So if your practice is just you messing around, like, you're not going to improve.
Yeah, you won't improve, and you will play like that. It's the same with fighting. Like, you have to be able to know. And I don't like to train, to where you're really knocking, each other's heads. But once in a while, you have to.
Right.
You have to know what someone who really wants to hurt you, what it feels like to when they try, or else you're in a drilling scenario. I think I read a story once about someone that he was in a real, I think, conflict kind of scenario where it's real gun type of scenario, and he was trained and trained thousands, tens of thousands of times disarming handgun with a dummy gun, whatever, I assume, because the moral of the story is he disarmed the assailant and handed him the gun back.
Just
out of
because
pure habit.
His muscle memory.
His muscle memory is to hand the
That's
dummy
funny.
gun back and to do another disarm.
Right.
And he disarmed him and instinctively handed it back to him, and the guy took it and shot him. I don't know where I read that, and it could just be some bullshit.
Some
for all I
story
fucking
too,
know,
but it
it's
proves a
not
point.
far off, it's weird in that sense, but the making it is also another rough. So if we're breaking down the whole thing, eating shit for 9 years and or whatever, when you get to the end, the making it part is always a head scratcher, because I think it's just like finance. I think we are us, and anyone who is not us is them. And so making it is just the next thing that them have, almost like tribalism. Like if we're an unsigned local band, making it means getting a deal.
Right. But then from there.
But when you get a deal, making it means doing a world tour and putting out an album in stores.
Right.
But when you do that and realize that's nothing, then making it means,
sustainable income or something.
Something like that.
A follow-up album that does well.
Yeah. But then what I think a lot of those ideas do is, I think they're weak ideas to begin with, so they get a lot of holes punched in them. So when you get what you think you want, and what you think you want doesn't feel like what you think you want feels like, you must start saying, this must not be that. It must be
the next
because
thing.
Of something else. So if you're a local and your dream is to get a big deal, you get a big deal, and you're still, strangers don't run up to you when you walk down the road. Your management must not be doing his job. Your publicist must not be, you know what I mean?
Right.
It is, if my ideal feeling doesn't match my perceived scenario, someone must be fucking me somewhere down the line. Of course, it's never you. It's always...
Right. That takes some serious self-reflection to be able to say that it could be your own fault.
My thing that I always say to people is to say what part of it is. There's absolutely no reason why there is not a fraction of it is your fault.
Right.
You're in the scenario. There's only, if you're in a group and there's 4 of you and you get signed to a label and there's 20 of them, there's only 24 people concerned here. If you're telling me you can get through that whole scenario without shouldering any of the blame, even if it's a 24th, even if it's negligence, even if it's overlooking this, even if it's ignorance, then that's still
something.
Accountability. It's still your fault. So I find it very hard to believe that people can navigate through these scenarios just completely unaware that they always have a fraction of the blame. Sometimes all the blame, sometimes little less. But there's always that piece of the blame that, that ignorance or that negligence part where it's, you didn't see it coming.
Right. Because doing nothing is not the same, but doing nothing could be the same as making a bad decision, right?
Yeah. In that sense, I think it's a real blind spot that people have, but again, that's kind of not even the focus of what we were getting at. What I was basically getting at was in that way of thinking, it's anyone who doesn't have what I have is the next guy.
Right.
Kind of, you're so lucky you got this. I wish I had that. It's like, well, you didn't wish it as hard as I wished it, motherfucker. Because
That's a crazy thing for people to say.
Right.
You're so lucky. And people will say it about crazy things.
People say it about things that are, it's weird. It's, I try to stay away from those people.
It's like I've been traveling, right? You know, not even doing stuff with the band, just traveling, right? And someone will hit me up, be like, "Oh, you're so lucky." It's like, where was the luck? I didn't win a raffle. I bought a plane ticket for $300, got on the plane, and I guess I'm lucky that the plane didn't crash.
Right, we're lucky in a sense that we are born in a time that has automobiles that
Right.
fly around in the sky, but in that case, so are you. We're equally lucky because you are also alive talking to me, and you're also able to get on this same plane. There's not a screening process that's only letting me on. It's not the PJ. It's
You're not flying on Drake's private jet.
Drake Air, yeah. It's
Or even if that person were to make the argument, oh, well, you're lucky to have the means to do it, the free time, the money. But it's like, that's not luck. I didn't win the lottery. It's all based on decisions that I made or you made that made you not able to do it and made me able to do it.
The strange part about the assumption, the statement is they act almost like it's written in stone.
Right. It's luck or nothing.
And that's it. It's over with. It's kind of like, it's always strange to me when younger people say that to me. Because I'm looking at my watch like, you still have 10 years before you're even sitting where I'm sitting. Nothing I do is lucky compared to what you got going on. You know, especially when I never do this or compare, but, you know, when I was sitting somewhere doing whatever it was I was doing, I wasn't looking at anyone that had anything remotely close to what I thought that I wanted in life. I wasn't looking at people doing shit. So I think the whole luck idea is strange. There is such thing as luck, of course, but like I said, we're lucky to be born in this time, but everyone that's here is, so.
You're lucky to not randomly die of some sort of freak accident.
Right. But we all, since we're here talking, have that luck. And, you know, there is such thing as different kinds of luck, but being somewhere is not, that doesn't.
Taking a trip
is not luck. Actually, someone said that. Not luck, but they kind of said something to me earlier when I was at the gym. It was an older guy. He didn't mean it like this, but it doesn't really matter. I think I was in the sauna, something like that, and this guy said, you know, you got a lot of tattoos. And I was like, yeah, I guess, you know, more than some, less than some, whatever.
Right.
He's like, that must have cost a lot of money. I couldn't spend that type of money. How much money you spend on those tattoos? I really don't have any clue. I told him, I don't really have any clue. He was like, yeah, probably thousands of dollars. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, sure, probably thousands of dollars. He's like, ooh, yeah, I couldn't do no thousands of dollars on tattoos. And I was like, do you smoke? And he said, yes, I've smoked for 35 years. I said, you probably spent more on a cigarette. He said, oh, you got me. He kind of stopped because he, you know, realized, but, you know, 35 years at a pack a day. I just kind of rubbed it in, you know, sitting there with him. I was like, you know what 35 years at a pack a day looks like? He's like, you know.
Something that you literally have nothing to show for.
Yeah, I said, my house costs less than your cigarette habit, so the tattoo thing should be absolutely no issue.
Right.
You know, but when you say shit like that, people think you're a dickhead because they smoke. Or, you know what I mean?
And it's normal, quote unquote.
Right. Same with any stupid
alcohol.
vice like that. Yeah, alcohol or anything. you almost want to say that to the people who always say things like, "Oh, I wish I could," da 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 da, and you almost want to say like, "Well, you know, all those times you're out doing this, that, and the other,
Spending
I
money
wasn't."
on $40-$50 of alcohol to go hang out.
You know, when you go to the bar, all those times, I didn't never do that
Right.
once. So that's just one stupid scenario version of it. The eating shit thing's tricky though, because I don't know if that really. I know people that have ate shit for 15, 20 years that no one's heard of.
Right.
And granted, they suck. They don't deserve anything.
But
In
they're
my
still eating
eyes, they're
shit.
weekend warriors, and they are not deliberately. They don't. To me, you find a way if you care enough to.
Right.
So people are kind of like, well, I'm practicing and I'm not getting any better. You're not caring enough to learn how to rethink practicing.
Practicing the right way.
You're just showing up and you're showing up and you're showing up, and that's cool and it works for a long time. But when you care enough, you're going to seek out your own, everyone plateaus.
Right.
And no one is smarter than the next guy to where he just knows how to break a plateau. It's how much do you care, what's it mean to you, and what's it worth, and how are you not going to give up, which kind of comes back to what we were talking about with eating shit and making it, and when making it really ain't making it, must not be making it, so whose fault is it, kind of thing.
Right. Well, and it could be, if you say that, making it's not really making it, then eating shit's not really eating shit.
I don't think anyone ever thinks about that.
Like, if you just use yourself as an example, right? So, say you use the 8 shit for 9 years, and then the 10th year you made it. Your first major label record came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago.
So people would say maybe you made it, but I think we're both under the impression that that's not making it.
I think I'm positive I haven't made it.
So do you still have 4 more years of shit to eat? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd be a real messed up thing, right? So I started over 20 years ago.
Right. As a child, you were probably
Right.
making music.
Yeah.
So and you were probably eating shit while doing it.
I was eating nothing because I was actually poor. Not poor like everyone says they're poor. Real poor. So
What was your go-to meal back then?
there was no meal. There wasn't a go-to.
You didn't have like
you hope
when
there's
you
a
had a
meal
little
there.
bit of money though, like when you had to make it stretch.
When I was a kid, there was no money. That's the thing. I don't think you're getting because you're way younger than
Right.
me. There was years with no money. You didn't see $1.
Okay.
So
It was just
it's
find
not like
whatever
now
you can.
parents hand their fucking kids money for doing shit they should already be doing. Bruce has a joke about this shit, a funny ass comedian. He says, I hate to hear parents making deals with their kids. My mom used to make a deal with me. She said, Bruce, we're going to go to the store and you better not ask for shit. And that's the deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was it. There was nothing. I mean, anyone can tell you this too. It was wear the same clothes, switch them with anyone. And I remember some meals, and it wasn't no 3 meals a day, and it wasn't no go to the sink and drink no water whenever you felt
Right.
like it. And it wasn't no shit like that. It was, you didn't go as hard playing football in the field because you knew you'd be thirstier. And when you got home, you couldn't drink as much as you wanted. I lived in a house for a while where the water was contaminated. So you had to buy gallons, which meant you had to ask, because you can't just go to the fridge. The kids today, they can go to the fridge,
Right.
you know. But when I was a kid, you have to ask to even go to the fridge, which the answer was no, because you have no business in it anyway. You ain't going to cook up a meal. You're
Right.
a kid. So you would be playing, and I remember just getting my ass whooped in games that I knew I could win because I was phoning it in.
You didn't want to exert yourself.
Because I didn't want to be hungrier or thirstier. Because, yeah, there was several nights where it would be, here's some classic meals, noodles and broth.
Okay.
So it would be egg noodles with broth. The little kind of spiral noodle.
Okay.
egg noodle, I think it's called. A bag of clear egg noodle, whatever, inside some broth. So that was the meal. And that's the deal. That was just shit like that. Just all the poor shit everyone says that they were doing. The boxes of cereal, just a white box with the black writing on it with no nutritional facts and no ifs, ands, or buts on it.
It was just like plain grain
It's
cereal.
all government, yeah.
Okay.
Government issued shit.
Corn.
What
like
they say,
plain cornflakes or
government
something?
cheese, government cereal,
Okay.
government milk. You mix the milk you mix the powder with the water,
Okay.
and then you put it in the cereal box or whatever. The cheese don't melt no matter how long you microwave it for. Things like that. That was the deal. That was shit like that. That ain't no new shit, Hot water and ketchup type of tomato
Spaghetti.
sauce, yeah. It was just some poor shit.
Right,
I
right.
ain't tripping about it. It was the shit, but I do remember phoning in a few games.
Just
to
because
keep
you
it
had
low
to.
key, yeah. I started sweating a lot, and I was like, "Shit,
There
and
goes
I'm
all
wearing these
my-
clothes tomorrow, and I can't get a drink." Kind of played it cool. So when I started stealing, when I got 8, then I just bought candy.
Okay.
Straight up, because I was just a stealing ass dude. I was, you know what I mean. I was like, well, I don't got nothing, so I'm gonna start stealing anything, especially from adults. I'm
'Cause you
stealing
got nothing
whatever's
to lose,
not
kinda?
bolt down. Yeah, I'm just like a Butterfinger, king size Butterfinger would be
Okay.
the dinner. I'd do whatever. I talk about it in the book a little bit, just jacking. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
Just-
right.
You'd be going through and just taking shit from people, trying to get some stuff set up. I remember really coming up on some serious stuff. When you're in a spot where you probably otherwise are not supposed to be, you can get there's opportunities.
Is there one, like a lick that you hit as a child that stands out? Was it the one from the book, the candy, the
That
teacher's
was just
lounge
a
candy
funny
heist?
grade school one. I was trying to be cool with it. Yeah, that was just a grade school one. That the book is tricky because when I talk about the year, I can only talk about that year.
Right.
And so there better be a few good
Stories.
that happened that year, right? And that year was that type of thing, so I just kind of touched on that. That really wasn't the highlight of my career by any means. I went on to do much bigger and much better things.
I'm sure you probably can't talk
And
about.
I wasn't going to get into them, but yeah, there would be sometimes I would, that's just this world, you know what I mean? When you hang around people that only look for those type of opportunities, you come across them. Sometimes, yeah, that's what I say in the book too. Some weeks we would have 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 grand, you know what I'm saying? Then the very next week we would have 0.
Because
with
you had
no
no
crib.
sort of like money management skills, because you
That
went
wasn't
from
even thought of. Yeah.
not having it to having it. So
Yeah. Aside from, yeah, I guess if you could call it money management, but when it comes so easy, you just think you can go get it again.
sure,
Right?
okay,
It's not about managing it. It's like, how do I manage to get more? Oh,
right.
whoops,
You just
I'm out.
it's
you
like
know?
a steady income at that point.
Yeah,
in
you
your
think
mind.
I can always go take some.
Right.
Someone's always going to have some money I can take from them. That's kind of what you think of when you're in that kind of zone. But I realized that really wasn't a real hustle. That's not you're not really making a shake in that type of sense. That's kind of like a down and out kind of thing. And it's shit you do when you're a kid, I guess, you know. When I see 40-year-old men still doing it, it's just sad. It ain't like,
They never
oh
used
yeah,
it
he's
to
doing it.
to take him to the next step, to the next level of like success in a way, right? Because that's what you should be doing, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? Like you should use these things that you're doing to get you out of the position of having to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to say what someone should do, but someone should not do the same thing for 40 years.
Right.
As far as when it's that.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of just got to look and see, you know, because when you're doing those things, you have all these reasons why, right? You can't have the same reasons 5 years later.
Let alone 40 years later.
Let alone 40. So yeah, it's okay to have those, oh yeah, well I ain't got this or that or the other, but it's not okay to not have this, that, or the other after you done had this, that, or the other 43 times this year and you done fucked it up.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a shitty person's going to be a shitty person across the board. That's always what we always talk about, right? You need to come across people that kind of... There's very few people where you can break it down to where I trust this person with this, but not that. It's just you trust them or you don't trust them. It doesn't go one way or the other.
Right.
They're usually shitty across the board. A lot of people lie to themselves and, you know, try to come up with, I'm a so-and-so type of person, not that type, you know what I mean? But now you're just a bullshitting excuse maker, really, you know? So I don't know if you eat shit if you win, basically. I don't know if you win. I don't think making it is also...
There's no, like we said, there's no way to... How do you know you've made it?
The hard part that I noticed with people, I mean, with me, I have specific goals. I have specific things that I want to do. So if you ask me if I made it, I say no. And I know when I get there, then I'm gonna make new making it.
Right.
It's not a big deal, but my hang up with a lot of these people's thinking is they don't even have that shit outlined.
Like
I had my
set
shit fully outlined.
Series of goals. They just want
specific
to
things
make money.
You want when you want it, and you know. Yeah, the money part's the one you hear the most often, right?
Right.
But you're kind of sitting there like, there are plenty other things you can do to make more money way quicker. So why don't you do that? That's what it's about.
The money should always be a means to an end, right? You can't take it with you. You know, having a lot of money doesn't equal success or happiness. It's the things you do with the money.
Yeah. I have a complicated ass, I guess, relationship with it. Doesn't really mean much to me. I don't dislike it though. I'm not one of those people that is I think, like we had talked about before, this last record that we made was about money. I don't ever remember there being no heavy records about money. It's kind of it's not I don't know if it's just because it's not shunned or shied away from, but I don't know if it's just because it's not interesting to them or it's not a big deal, and it really never has been.
Right.
Right. I don't know if it's that or if it's a complex that, you know, this type of aversion kind of complex where it's hallowed ground kind of thing, you know, because you're not supposed to. It's hard to talk about, I guess, right? But to me, it never was. I was like, yeah, I'll be flat out with you. I want out. Whatever we're doing right now, I don't want to do it anymore. Right. I don't want to do it all the time. I think people look at me crazy when I say that shit and people are always like, oh, you know what I'm saying? You made it and you're still in Flint. Like, ain't that proof I didn't make it? I'm still here, but I'll be completely flat out. I don't want to be here or anywhere. You know what I mean? As far as goals, my goal is not to be, you know what I mean? My goal is to be ghost. I'm trying to get all the way out of everywhere. I always say to my friends, you'll know I made it when you realize you can't get a hold of me anymore.
Change your number, change your address.
No, I'm just saying just not have one, right?
Okay.
I'm just saying ghost. I'm gone. I'm gone. When I always tell them just as a joke, you're gonna have to look on Instagram to find out what I done did.
You're gonna still be posting on the gram?
I doubt it. I really won't. But
you
what I'm saying,
will be, dude. You love it.
I really can't fuck with it, man. It's really annoying and stupid, and it's corny as fuck. But no, I never thought that was something that shouldn't be talked about as far as what the heck. It's almost like, isn't that a problem kind of thing in school? Is the number one financial thing they teach you is that they don't teach you finance in school?
Yeah.
Isn't that the biggest problem? Isn't that why 65% of people under 30's net worth is $1,000?
Right.
You know what I mean?
You don't learn how to balance your checkbook. You don't learn how to file for taxes. You don't know how to do any sort of finances, investing.
You don't really learn anything. And once again, I'm not saying they're out to get us, but I'm just saying, why is that something to stay ignorant about, I guess?
I think I almost do think it is that they're out to, not that they're out to get us, but they're out to make themselves more money. And
maybe in a sense to where, why am I going to reach over and help you when I'm helping myself?
Right.
But as far as purposely keeping someone down, I mean, we got to get specific about shit. Because I really hate listening to those jackasses that just the man's keeping them down. They're just about to win around every corner, but they just can't. They just, I can't get with those stories. I can't really address them either because every one of them is different, but I think the school system's just an old-ass system.
And it's not getting any better, right?
It's not like getting any better, no.
It's not like the school system's getting a flood of money.
I don't think people can use that as an excuse anymore with the internet and all the other shit going on, though.
You can teach yourself, right?
You can teach yourself, and it's like, dog, you watched the whole Lord of the Rings. How many seasons is that?
It's 3 movies.
The whole
Game of
Thrones.
8 seasons.
That's 8 seasons. How many episodes be in each season?
8 to. It's usually about 10 hours.
10 hours. So you're talking about 80 hours.
Right.
Like, you can't teach yourself some financial secrets in 80 hours. You suck.
Right.
So it's kind of.
That's 2 full work weeks.
Right. It's kind of like you can't use that anymore, dog. You got to use something else. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's the only excuse, but I do hear that, and I'm just like, yo, that's over with now.
It seems like a lot of people expect their education to be done once they finish high school or finish college, right? But really, you should be trying to learn something every day.
That shit, I don't know if we talked about it before, but it blows my mind. When someone punches out when they're done with the school and they're like, yeah, I'm good.
Right.
I meet 50-year-old people where I can sit and think, I can tell you were done with school in the 80s.
Right.
Because all your ideas are 80s. You ain't even updated them bitches. You ain't got a software update, nothing, right?
They don't know what a software update is.
Right, which I'm not even mad about as far as, not being able to use certain things or keep up with certain things if they're not important. Like, I'm not good at using the computer. I'm not good at using these social medias. I'm not good. But that's not what I'm doing.
Right.
Kind of thing. What I mean is these people's whole frame of mind is 35, 45 years old. They're not even opening their ears to seeing what the hell's going on around as far as the times or being aware of certain things. It's just, that's kind of what I was getting at. I forgot what the point was, but
money. You'll be ghost.
Yeah. It's just strange because only people acting like they don't want it are people that don't. It's crazy when you're in the game, but you're acting like it don't matter if you win, kind of thing.
Right.
It's like when you go into a job, you got your kids, you got the house, you got the car, you got the stuff. You're actively playing the game, and then your big decree is, I don't care if I win or not.
Right. Yeah. How can you
When
be doing
anyone
something
can win,
and
right?
not care?
Right.
Or
It's like you're already
if you
playing.
really don't care, why are you doing it?
Right. But that's besides the point. I don't know if there's a real formula for the entertainment industry. You know what I mean? Like being a band, remaining.
Yeah, that was another thing that they said, that the secret to being a successful band is just staying a band.
I think the secret to staying a band is staying a band.
It's a kind of a nothing statement, right? Because you can't be a successful band if you're not a band. You can't stay a band if you're not a band.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit. But the thing that I can kind of agree is, if you're good,
someone will eventually
stay
notice.
a band. Yeah.
Right.
I know plenty of bands that have been around for 22 years that suck and have never done shit and never will. Staying a band is not their formula. It's not going to work.
They're just going to
for them.
continue to eat shit.
Exactly. So it's kind of that first linchpin is you have to be good.
Right.
It's to some.
That's for anything though.
Yeah, the kind of other side of the coin is there are so many people on this earth, someone will think you're good.
Right.
But
it's like when you see a local band at a show and someone comes up and buys their $5 CD because, dude, you guys rock, will you sign my CD? It's like, dude, they're just a bunch of kids.
Yeah, but someone likes it, right?
Right.
So that's kind of maybe what they were getting at with, if you want to make it stay, because there is enough people. But again, if you're on a treadmill, if you're spinning your wheels, staying on the treadmill is not going to make you healthier. So you have to be good. I think you have to be good to some degree, I guess. You don't have to, you know what I mean? Something has to be going on.
Right.
And then you have to get it to people. That's the whole other thing. And maybe you can create something, but time moves quickly.
Does it almost seem like how you're saying that with social media and exposure being easier to get, is that both a blessing and a curse for the entertainment industry? Do you think, like, back before social media, like, if you did get signed, that was like a bit more of like, hey, you made it, because that was the only way to really get yourself out there?
Yeah, in a sense of just mathematically, because there was less.
Right.
The business was much smaller. This is not, I don't like to talk about my opinion, you know what I mean, on the matter. There were less things going on. There were less labels. The kid with the laptop could not make a label.
Right.
There were less recording studios. There were less groups. And it's like more dollars in that industry
to spread around.
And I say that industry because, nowadays, there are billions of dollars and stuff, but I don't count things like social medias and Spotify's as the music industry. They make money for themselves. They're
tool
not
used
part
by
of the music
industry.
Right.
Okay.
I'm talking about, so when I'm talking about industry, I'm talking about shows, records, things like that.
Press or no? Because that's also like a means.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it, but I just mean as far as dollars going around.
Okay.
The old saying that you could have been a fly on the wall and got rich back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. So, in that sense, what was the question?
The question was, do you think it was easier about the social media and the internet being both a good thing because you can expose yourself, but a bad thing because there's so many people that can also do it?
Yeah, I think people always tout the positive.
Right.
You know, social media, you can put this on and go viral. It's like, yeah, everyone in the world is doing that, so that means you probably won't. You know, how many people do you know that have gone viral?
Truly viral? Not many. I mean, zero.
And you probably know a few hundred people, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen someone have a viral tweet, but that's, I mean...
Right. So...
They didn't go viral. A tweet that they made went viral.
Right, and then it was gone the next day. But
right.
The point is, it's... The negative side is never discussed
exposed.
with it. It's always, you know, with the internet you can do anything. It's like, yeah, with the internet you can get lost. That's basically the infinite woods that you can stumble into. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, it's a bunch of things. It's not only that either. It's gatekeepers and things, you know. If so and so has a cosign, you know, Sam Phillips recorded everyone, and then, you know, as time goes by, you have these even today you have like Elliot Reed and stuff, you know. That stamp still means something. It's still resonating today.
Right.
But those are all different elements that, on one hand, you can say, this thing is breaking down the gatekeepers. You know, you can start something from your laptop and be this. And you can. But I kind of lean towards the pessimistic side that people want to be shown things, told where to go, what things like that. I mean, it's obvious they do. It's stupid to even shy away from this idea. You show up to work and they tell you what to do each day. They positively do. I think Steve Jobs has a quote saying, you know, if the public knew what they wanted, they'd make it. They don't. They don't know that what they want until you sell it to them.
It's the Henry Ford.
It's the traditional Henry Ford that I overuse. And he says if I would have asked the people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses. But that's true.
There's entire industries around reviews. People telling you should like this or you shouldn't like this. Whether it's a film review by a critic in the newspaper or a Yelp review by the fat slob that doesn't like the service.
Exactly. And they all, again, you know, you talk about, you know, the internet does away with these gatekeepers. It's like, no, it doesn't. The big fat slob that's being lobbied by the Burger King ad, he's just another gatekeeper that has his
lobbyists. It encourages more gatekeeper.
Right. It doesn't make it better. Competition does make things better, but more things does not mean competition. It's in this kind of atmosphere, you can create things endlessly, and it's just more and more noise. It doesn't necessarily mean competition, you know? So what was the point? Because I kind of forgot.
The point was that it is more difficult, probably, to be successful in the music industry because of the internet. How many independent people... we're kind of just saying the same thing, but how many independent artists are successful based in comparison in ratio to how many people are trying to be an independent artist? It's got to be 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah, it's really hard to know, right? Because you don't know about them people.
Right. But I mean, if you just go on SoundCloud, you could easily find thousands at least of artists trying to do their thing, quote unquote.
Thousands? So I thought it was
hundreds of millions, yeah, whatever.
Users.
At least.
Right.
So we're fucked.
So we're fucked. We might as well sign off.